This episode is brought to you by Shopify. That's the sound of switching your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling. Harness the best converting checkout and same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Stop leaving sales on the table. Discover why millions trust Shopify to build, grow, and run their business. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech23.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
My name is Chris Griesemer, and I host a podcast called Wiki Walks, which is a walk and journey through some of the more interesting and unusual articles you might find on Wikipedia.
Hey, I'm Mike. Welcome to Podcast Diaries. These are the stories of podcasters who feel alone, just like you. Well, thank you for being here.
Pleasure.
Tell us your name.
Chris Griesemer.
Okay, Chris, tell me about your podcast or podcasts.
So I only have the one.
Okay.
So it's called Wiki Walks.
Okay.
And it's just kind of an interesting, they're bite-sized episodes. So
Yeah.
really like, listen to this on the commute on your car, not
Sure.
long form, but just of little vignettes of some of the more interesting and unusual articles you might find on Wikipedia.
Okay.
So a little, generally between 5 to 9 minutes.
Oh, wow,
kind
that's
of in
great.
there. And then just, I go through swaths of how many episodes I put out. Just, kind of depends on life. But
So what's your motivation for this show?
Total pet project, just all stuff I find interesting. I'm a kind of person that if I open something in Wikipedia, inevitably I will then have 90 more tabs where I'm like, I got to read that. Yeah. I got to read that. Oh, I've never seen that word before. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. And so I was like, there might be like-minded people out there that might find this interesting of just like, who knew? That's kind of, if I could summarize the entire show into one phrase would just be, who knew?
Who knew?
That's
really great. So I'm assuming this is not your main job.
Nope.
What do you do in real life if you want to share that with us?
Sure. So I have two main things.
Do you think it's weird that people say real life like that? Like it's a whole different thing. Yeah.
Yes. So for the last 20 plus years, I've been a voice actor for radio and TV ads and cartoons and video games. And so the barrier to entry for me to go into podcasting was very easy because I already have a home studio and a professional setup just because that's been a career since forever.
It's wonderful.
So it was like, I got to research mics and, preamps and edit it. It's like, I already have all this stuff and I already have a acoustic treated space. And so it's like, just had to write the script basically. So that made it a pretty easy transition into doing it. And then I also work at Baylor as well and work in IT, but I do a lot of stuff with media for the law school and all kinds of stuff. So you kind of answered one of my questions about equipment and where you record. You've got this home studio. Can you give us kind of a brief summary of kind of your equipment, your surroundings? Yeah. So it's basically a converted walk-in closet that I do. I used to have to travel a lot to either go to studios in Austin or Dallas. And I'm from Denver. And so, I have to go to Denver occasionally because I still have an agent there in addition to one here. Right. But then the proliferation of home studio equipment over the last 15 years has gotten so much more affordable. And so I record most of everything into a Sennheiser MKH416 shotgun mic. I used to be really big into Neumann mics, but they're so sensitive and my voice tends to do better with a more bass forward sound. Sure. And so a lot of those shotgun mics complement me better. So I really like doing that for VO.
That's great information,
work. I go into an Apogee Duet 2 interface and preamp and a Grace M101 preamp as well, sometimes depending on the job. Into a Mac and then just do everything in Adobe Audition. I was a big, Pro Logic guy forever and then just, kind of went into the Adobe creative space and like, I'm only doing single track stuff. So I'm not mixing music.
Absolutely.
For my own podcast, I'll do a little bit of audio mixing in there. But for most of the VO stuff, it's just dry single track vocal, so I don't really require a whole lot of extra shenanigans in there. But
so what's your turnaround time like?
I mean, it depends. I do offer expedited delivery on different things.
Sure.
Usually 48 hours is my general go-to. But sometimes I'll have clients that are like, hey, I need this in 2 hours. I'm like, I can deliver in 2 hours, but it's going to cost you.
Yeah, sure.
And they're like, yeah, that's great. That's fine. We need it now. I'm like, great. Okay. Totally fine. So usually 48 hours is my general expected delivery turnaround. But I can really accommodate whatever they need. Obviously, if it's like a 20,000 word project, you're not going to get it in 2 hours. That might be like, you're going to get it at the end of the week, maybe.
Yeah.
So just kind of depends. But.
So the voiceover stuff and the voices, how did you get into that? What was your road to that?
So I used to do stand-up back in the day, like high school, like sneak in a club type of deal. And there was an agent who was there who was like, hey, your material is terrible, but your voices are great. And so, a lot of it was doing dialect work and characters and stuff where it's like, I don't have the content to actually make people laugh, but if I say it in a funny voice, it really doesn't matter how funny I am. And so, they were like, hey, if you don't have representation, we'd love to help get you started. There's actually a lady in our church who did VO professionally and it was a host for HGTV shows all the time. Wow, and so I was like, hey, and she was a great mentor to me. Her name is Tia Marlier. She was the best. So I just started getting little local jobs and like local PBS station kind of things. And they just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then started doing, national spots for major brands and just kept going. And,
So let's take a step back. I think that's wonderful information about voiceover. It sounds to me like you just start doing it.
Yeah.
And
it's so different now than it used to be too.
Yeah. How so?
So there's a much wider pool of people that do, just in the same way that, saying the equipment is so much easier to get and to set up your own spaces. Where if you got a closet with a lot of sweaters, you're 90% of the way there. Yeah. So there's a lot more people who do it, but there's also, which is tough. So it really is like, are you good enough to do it? I mean, there's a talent gap, but there's so many more revenue streams available than what it used to be. Yeah. So when I first started, around 2000 or so, it was kind of like an old boys network of who was doing VO for the same. It's the same radio imaging guys. It's the same audiobook guys. It's the same commercial guys. You'd have the big, like, come on down to Sam's furniture store and we've got this big radio voice. That's what everybody wants. You don't hear that at all anymore. Yeah. That is gone. They're like, we want Jim from The Office, conversational, John Krasinski. Hey, I'm just a regular guy.
Right.
And so now everybody can do it, but there's so much more competition, but there's so, YouTube channels, my Instagram. I've got a TikTok that I need a voiceover for. And it's like, those things didn't exist 20 years ago.
So this is not one of my questions that I wrote down, but this is something I feel like you will have an opinion on. If there's one thing I hate in the world, it is that fake voice on Instagram or TikTok, that one computer lady.
My face when my brother punches my dog.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. How do we get rid of that? And what do you think of AI voices and things?
That's very interesting you asked that, because I've played a lot around with like the Chat GPT and OpenAI stuff where it's like, is this going to take my job at some point? Yeah. And I think there is so much of a human element required for reading and doing impressions and to really nail. And I mean, particularly if you're doing dialect stuff, it's going to be a long time, I think, before AI can really hit the nuances and to sell the humor of something. So it's like, we really wanted to emote whatever. I don't know that AI is there yet, but
I think it's going to take a while, right? I mean, like you say, it to me, it's almost like sending a text versus making a phone call. There's no inflection. There's no, AI is really bad at that.
Yes.
I hate spelling out words the way they sound so that they can say them the right way. You know, that sort of thing. And some folks, it seems like they don't even think about that when they put together. I watch a lot of YouTube videos that voice comes on, and it's like it just mispronounces the weirdest words.
Yes.
You know,
I do. If I were somebody that did like what's called IVR, so interactive voice response is another big section of voiceover. Like,
okay,
thank you for calling Mike Hamilton Industries.
Gotcha,
if you know the party you'd like to reach, please. There is a cabal of VO people that's their shtick is doing IVR. Which is it's the easiest stuff to do.
Sure.
It pays shockingly well for how easy it is.
Yeah.
But it's tough to break into because, like, if you're in the IVR,
there's 13 of them or whatever.
Right.
Sure. Yeah, I got you.
Oh, man, you print money.
I just assumed 13 because of the cabal.
That's correct. Yes. It's either 7 or 13 or something.
That's right.
But that, I think, is more susceptible towards the AI taking over.
Yeah, I can see that.
Industrial narration, insert tie rod A into slot receiver B. You know, I think those people should be kind of shaking in their boots.
Almost that short burst audio.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes. And response, who cares? You know, if you say human resources the wrong way as a computer, I still know what you mean on the phone.
He said resources instead of resources.
Human resources. Yeah, exactly. So let's go back to podcasting since this is a podcast about podcasts. Right. What do you see, and this is just a personal opinion, okay? What do you see as success as a podcaster? What does that mean? I think it's different to everyone, but what does it mean to you?
When I don't get a ton of listenership. I might get like 500 listens to an episode, and I'm feeling pretty good about that.
Sure, yeah. Well, as a pet project, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and it's not done to be a revenue generator.
Yeah.
I think I have probably gotten 2 extra voiceover jobs as a result that people heard it and they're like, "Oh wow, we really liked your voice. Would you want to do X project?" Like,
well, that I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that brings up another point. Do you do it in your voice or do you do it in a voice?
Just regular.
Okay.
Me.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's a little bit of affectation to it.
I get it. Sure.
Just like, here's an interesting story you probably haven't heard.
Right.
But I keep it pretty conversational, which is odd because none of the voiceover work I do is conversational.
Yeah.
I am not good at doing Jim from The Office,
Really?
like that kind of thing. So I'm the voice for like the Royal Bank of Scotland. I've done stuff for Qantas Airline. I mean, I am much more comfortable and confident doing a characterization and doing something that's not me.
Right.
So very, very rarely do I do the voice that you're hearing now is not what I usually do for voiceovers, which is odd because usually sometimes people are like, "Oh, you've got a radio voice." It's like nobody pays me for that voice.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's all I'm Irish or Scottish or I was Mickey Mouse for Radio Disney for
a while. I mean,
oh boy, Mickey Mouse. Well, all right, toodles.
Yeah, that's great.
So I feel much more comfortable doing that kind of stuff than what I actually do for the podcast.
Yeah.
Oddly enough. But just me talking.
So
but for success.
Success. Sorry.
Because it is a pet project, if I can put something out there that I get any engagement with where people are like, that was so interesting. I'd never heard the story of the cocaine bear or something, whatever. And it's like, I just randomly found that on Wikipedia. That is success to me that somebody else goes, who knew?
I'm loving this episode that we mentioned Mickey Mouse, Cocaine Bear, and Royal Bank of Scotland in the same show. That's fantastic.
Mickey keeps sniffing. What's over there? Yeah.
So how many voices would you say that you do? Like if you had to build a repertoire.
I've listed them out before.
Yeah.
To put in like aggregators where it's like if you search.
Sure.
I've got about 140.
Wow.
Or so.
They all live in your head.
They all live. I had a lot of free time.
Sure. Yeah,
that's right.
Get that.
Yes.
Get that. Now that you've mentioned that,
yes,
I'm going to ask you something that's a little personal to me.
Go for it.
Are you an only child or do you have siblings?
2 older brothers, but quite a bit older.
Okay.
So
you spend a lot of time by yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
13, 11, and me.
Okay.
That was the
I'm an only, so lots of time by myself.
Yes.
Yeah. Now another question that pertains to me, because really this show's just about me.
Yeah,
but your voice, is that something that you worked on as a kid or a teenager?
A lot of it just is sort of like playing music by ear, like that I'll hear it and I can immediately go into it. There are a few that I've had to really work at.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, it's usually I can know within about 2 minutes.
Well, the reason I ask is when I was a teenager, or I guess a little younger, I started working on my voice. I wanted to get rid of my accent.
Okay.
I wanted to be able to make a phone call and the person on the other end of the phone not know where I'm from.
Perfect.
I could be any part of the country. You know,
Totally
that's
bland.
sort of the thing, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
Give me Nebraska.
For some reason, that's what I wanted.
Yes.
And so this is not the voice I was born with.
Ah.
This is a voice that has been curated over time, I guess. I think maybe I'm just nuts.
Yeah.
But anyway, I didn't know if you had the same sort of circumstance.
Mine was much more, I'm going to call and be Australian for this,
Gotcha.
or walking into a store and like, I need to talk to somebody at Best Buy. And it's like, and you know, with my wife, I'll be like, name a country. She's like, I don't know. France. I'm like, we're going to be French. And so it's like, fantastic. Oh God, please help me.
Does she play along?
She will silently nod and pretend not to know me.
This is my mute French wife. Yeah,
yes,
sure.
Mute French wife.
Right.
Yes. So it's mime is very big there. So that's
she just constantly wants out of a box.
That's right.
Yeah,
who's that lady pulling on a rope? So like
it's so windy.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
So actually, when I was at Baylor, I did a speech class my freshman year and pretended to be Australian the whole way through.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And so you know, every speech I went up there, I was like, "Hi, my name is Chris. I just moved here from Melbourne, Australia. It's so nice to meet you guys. Boy, Texas is so hot." And then I would see these people on campus and had no idea they were in my class. And they're like, "Hey, man." I'm like, "Hey. Do we know each other?" Like, I thought you're from. I'm like, oh yeah, get on. Yes. Koalas are cute and mean.
Small strokes. Sorry.
Yes, yeah. And so, I would get into a lot of trouble and awkward.
That's really great, though. I can see that being a lot of fun. Okay.
Prank calls.
Yeah.
A lot of prank calls.
You did a lot of prank calls, huh?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Many.
What was your go-to?
So I started at Baylor in 2003, and so a lot of people didn't have cell phones, so they all had landlines in their room.
Landlines were fantastic for prank calls.
Absolutely. Yes. And so they would give it was called a freshman annual, and it was like a phone book of everybody who was a freshman living on campus. It was like
just an invitation for
absolutely,
you. Yeah.
Silver platter. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times I would pretend to be the residence hall director of what I would pick somebody at random, and we'd usually have like 10 people in my dorm room, and I'm on speakerphone. I'd always be the same guy, John McGraw. I'm like, yes, my name is John McGraw. I'm calling from Department of Public Safety, and I just need to tell you we're actually doing a mattress exchange program with the Campus Living and Learning. You're in room 327, right on the third floor? And they're like, oh, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, we got a new Posturepedic mattress down on the lobby level. So you bring your mattress down to the first floor. I know it's going to be a couple flights of stairs, but bring it on down. We'll give you a new one. We'll help you move back up. And so they'd be like, okay,
mattress
that's great.
Exchange program. That's great. Yeah.
So we then immediately
John sounds like he lost a tooth.
That's
too.
right. Well, see, it's the problem. It's my flapper.
Sure.
And so we'd go sit in like the lobby of the dorm, and you'd hear like, some 90-pound freshman girl like, pulling a mattress down the stairs.
What is better than watching something like that play off? You know,
then you just hear it, gunk, gunk, and they're like, I'm here for the new mattress. And they're like, what new? No, get great. That. What are you doing? And they're like, he said he was going to do a new mattress. And they'd be like, why are those guys just sobbing in the corner? And they're like, I can't believe she fell for it. Yeah.
That's really great.
It was fun. When you're 18, it's not a lot to do in Waco.
Well, not only that, it's I think it's a lot of fun to watch it pay off.
That's true.
You know, you're just like, oh, look what I did.
That's right.
And there's a little bit of control there.
Some new people. Like, I'll help you take that back up. Oh, well, thank you so much. I'm like, if you ever find out the truth about me.
Is that how you met your wife?
That's
exchange
exactly.
program like that? Yeah, sure.
She was in the Collins dorm mattress exchange program.
Yeah, she's just sitting on that mattress downstairs waiting.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, Chris, thank you for spending time with us. I appreciate you telling us about your show. Give us the name of your show one more time, when it drops, where it drops, and any other information in like your socials and things?
Yes. So it drops intermittently. It depends the stage of life. Sometimes it's like, wow, 3 episodes in a week. And
well, you've got kids too, right?
I've got a 7 and a 5-year-old, and so
they're easy to blame stuff on. So
absolutely.
That's good. Yeah.
And when with work, when they're like, oh, we're going to be remote for a while, I'm like, I'm going to put out episodes 1,000 a day. And they're like, we're back in the office. And I was like,
whoops.
I've never heard of podcasts in my life. So yes, they drop whenever they drop.
Right.
Wiki Walks is the name. A walk through Wikipedia, basically. You can find it on all the things.
Okay.
I even upload them to YouTube as well.
That's great.
They're on. If you go to wikiwalks.net.
Oh.
.net.
Sure.
Because it was cheaper.
That's right.
And available. You can find it there, but it's on Spotify and Apple.
Yeah.
And
can I ask where do you host it?
Pinecast.
Pinecast. I've never heard of Pinecast.
Yep. It's very easy and it's great.
It's wonderful.
Yes. That was something I kind of had to learn about, was the hosting and the publishing.
Hosting stuff.
And
yeah.
It's like, oh, I thought it just happens.
Yeah.
I'm used to just sending off an audio file. I'm like, it just happens.
Oh, look, this one's free. Oh, that's why it's free.
That's
right.
That's
exactly right. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Yeah. It does allow for a tip jar, so I've
that's great.
Half of my podcasting hosting fees per month have been taken care of by generous donors.
That's excellent. So, generous donors like you.
Yes.
Yeah.
P.S. You don't get a free tote bag if you listen.
That's right. Okay.
But yeah.
So last question for you, and this one may or may not be your favorite. Give me a podcasting horror story. Like what has gone wrong and what happened?
I don't know that I've certainly had typos that have made its way into episode notes and things, or I had some episode that went out and I tried to recall it, and then it would always show in the feed, but then as broken. Like it was just like, this can't be accessed for across every platform. Yeah, I think because I do the audio work as a job, I'm just so hyper aware of most of the things that could go wrong. But that's where on the hosting and the publishing stuff, where I'm like, I've never had to do this.
Yeah.
Maybe FTP stuff back in the day, but never this. Yeah. And so that was like my 3rd episode. Just went and people are like, "What? Why doesn't this work? What's going on?" I was like, "I don't know what I'm doing. This wasn't in the YouTube I watched about hosting a podcast."
That's right.
It's like, use your Blue Yeti mic in your bathroom, and I was like, "This video is terrible. I don't know what this is." And then I was like, "Oh, the hosting stuff."
Yeah, hosting stuff's tough. It is a brand new world.
Yes.
We have moved a couple of times as far as the network goes, and it is a nightmare to get everything. Hey, you know what the biggest thing is those hosts don't like to share.
No.
So if there's any information you want, you better get it, buddy.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's gone for good.
What has been, I think, the most laborious part is, so I also, I've done graphic design and so I do all the album art, and I do.
That's great.
I put a lot into each episode when it drops, the graphics for all of it.
Yeah.
So I'm a one-man show, but I'm like, there are about 8 different components to publishing. I will make a audiogram version of this. So it's a video with like an oscilloscope going, and I'll do it.
We use Headliner for that kind of thing.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So I used Pinecast. It offers you like 2 free Headliner videos per time. Mm-hmm. I went and remade basically their template in After Effects, and so I could just drop it in. Yeah. But the process of doing that, but then also making it for Insta stories and rechanging the size so it fits on an Insta story, or we're doing it for a reel, we're doing it for TikTok, or doing it for YouTube, and I'm doing 16:9 or whatever. It's like, this is so much work.
Too many options.
The social media component of it, which I was like, I understand why people get paid to do this kind of stuff, because this is so much extra work.
It is.
Just doing the episode, like writing it and recording it, is by far the easiest part to me.
Yeah.
All the other crap you have to do to publish it and to make it work on all the different platforms.
Yeah.
I'm like, this sucks the fun out of it.
Just so people can see
hard.
it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's it.
Oh, well, I only listen to stuff on Insta. Or, I only, if it's on Facebook. Or, I'm like, I can't keep up.
No, I'm for every social network going down but one. I don't care which one it
pick
is.
one.
Just pick one and let's go. Yeah.
Give me YouTube only.
Yeah, I don't care. Whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, just give me one.
So that is one that keeps me, and because I don't outsource anything and I do it all myself, that is some friction.
Sure.
On putting out episodes. I'm like, I don't want to have to go remake all this and redo this video in After Effects and go add all the stuff just for one episode.
Yeah.
I'm like, this took 10 times longer.
Hey, like I've had to do it 10 times. It's the same content.
Yeah.
You know, what am I doing? Yeah.
So yeah, that part sucks. But the actual episode making, great.
It's wonderful.
Everything that comes after that.
Sure.
So, I have great
all
respect.
Right. Chris, one more time, full name and your podcast.
Chris Griesemer and Wiki Walks. That is the podcast.
Fantastic. Thanks for being here, man.
Hey, I appreciate it.
Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too.
Cool.
Cool.
Check out more podcast diaries and plenty of other shows at roguemedianetwork.com. If you have a story to tell, reach out to us. info@roguemedianetwork.com. This has been a Rogue Media Network production.